Well, here we are, the final chapter of our journey together. You've built up all these foundational skills, which is awesome. So now let's talk about maybe the most important part. How do you actually build a lasting career in a field that is changing by the second? Let's dive right in. This right here, this is the fundamental question, isn't it? It's something every single one of us in this field has to grapple with. The ground beneath our feet is constantly shifting. I mean, new models, new techniques, new capabilities, it feels like they're arriving every single week. So how do you go from just learning the skills we've covered to truly mastering a craft that refuses to stand still? The answer? Well, it sounds simple, but it's definitely not easy. It's all about adaptation. See, true expertise in AI isn't some finish line you cross. It's a constant, ongoing process of learning and adapting. In a field that's moving this fast, if you're standing still, you're actually falling behind. This commitment to adaptation, that's the core idea we're going to unpack today.
To really get our heads around this, let's use a metaphor. I want you to think of the whole AI landscape as this wild, ever-shifting river. Just when you think you've figured out its currents, boom, a new channel opens up. The flow completely changes, and that map you just made, it's suddenly out of date. The pace is just relentless.
And what's really fascinating here is how all these drivers kind of feed into each other. So models are becoming multimodal. They can understand images, audio, not just text. That directly leads to the rise of AI agents, which are basically AIs that can take actions on their own. And because of that, our prompting has to evolve way beyond simple text commands. And of course, as AI gets woven deeper and deeper into our software, the ethical questions get way more complex. Relying only on yesterday's techniques, it's like trying to use a dial-up modem on today's internet. It just won't work.
So, knowing why you need to adapt, that's the easy part, right? The real question is how you do it without getting totally overwhelmed. The key is to think of it less like a frantic sprint and more like tending a garden. It just requires consistent attention and some practical, sustainable habits. So let's look at the tools for your lifelong learning toolkit.
Okay, here are 3 core habits that are going to form your personal toolkit. First, you have to stay curious, and you have to get your hands dirty. Seriously, reading is one thing, but actually experimenting with new models and tools, that's where you build real intuition. Second, you need to consciously build what I call your information diet, curating the sources you trust. And third, you can't do this alone. Engaging with the community is how you accelerate your learning and, hey, share your own discoveries too.
So, the crucial point here is to be intentional about this whole process. This slide gives you a fantastic starting list. You can follow the major AI research labs, you could just scan the titles on archive.org to spot trends, subscribe to a couple of high-quality newsletters that sift through the noise for you, find the key researchers and engineers on social media, and dive into forums or local meetups. You're basically building a system that brings the most important information directly to you. My advice? Just pick 1 or 2 from this list and make it a weekly habit. That's it. Now, let me share a quick story about why this is so important. When those early AI agents like AutoGPT first started popping up, I'll be honest, I was pretty skeptical. I saw the demos and I thought, interesting toys, but they're not ready for any serious work. So I kind of dismissed them and just focused on the techniques I already knew. And you know what? That was a mistake. A few months later, a really complex project landed on my desk that was a perfect fit for an agentic approach, and I was forced to play catch-up under a ton of pressure. And this is the lesson I learned the hard way. What seems like a toy today might be the essential tool of tomorrow. You gotta stay curious and really try to avoid dismissing new ideas too quickly. That kind of proactive, curiosity-driven experimentation, that's what prepares you to grab hold of future opportunities.
Okay, with all this talk of constant change, it might start to feel a little daunting. I get it, but here's the good news. Amidst that ever-shifting river we talked about, there is a bedrock of fundamental principles that does not change. The skills we've spent all this time mastering, those are your anchor.
Just look at this breakdown. The tools on the left, they will absolutely change. We're going to see new agent frameworks, incredible multimodal models, entirely new ways to prompt. But the skills on the right, those are timeless. It doesn't matter how advanced the AI gets, the need for clarity in your communication, for specificity, for rigorous iteration, that will always be absolutely essential. These are the core principles that define your true, lasting expertise. As we start to wrap this up, I really want to focus on the most important piece of this entire puzzle, you. The whole goal of mastering prompt engineering isn't to be replaced by AI. It's to become an indispensable partner to it. It's about leveraging our unique human intelligence.
This, right here, is probably the single most important concept to take away from our entire time together. These models, they have access to these vast patterns of information, but they have no purpose, no values, no judgment. That's our job. We're the ones who provide the context, the ethical compass, and that creative spark that transforms all that raw computational power into something meaningful and valuable.
So this isn't the end, not at all. This is the starting line. Everything we've covered has equipped you with the tools, the mindset, and the foundational skills to not just participate in the future of AI, but to actually help shape it. So embrace that role. Be a guide, a partner, and a responsible steward of this incredible technology.
And that leaves us with one final, powerful question. Now that you have this knowledge, what are you going to build? What problems are you going to solve? How will you use your own unique spark to contribute to this field responsibly? The journey continues from here. So go out there, experiment, create, and keep learning. Thank you so much for walking this path with me.